Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están todos? Mi nombre es Carlos Joy Moisés. Bienvenidos a Comic Manía. Y bueno, ¿qué les puedo decir? Hasta yo no lo puedo creer, pero sí, logramos una entrevista con el señor Todd McFarlane, uno de mis ídolos. Yo sé que el hombre se ha vuelto algo controversial a través de toda su carrera, ha hecho algunas cosas, ha dicho algunas cosas que a algunas personas no les cae muy bien, pero bueno, a mí no me importa nada de eso. Hablando de su arte, hablando de las cosas que ha logrado a través de su carrera. Bueno, él sin duda es una de las personas que más admiro y en serio le doy las gracias por darnos un poco de su tiempo para esta entrevista y esperemos que próximamente tengamos otra oportunidad de hablar con él y con muchos otros artistas y dibujantes, ya sea mexicanos o extranjeros, que en realidad, pues bueno, uno nunca sabe, pero bueno, un día me desperté, me vino la opción de esta entrevista y inmediatamente dije que sí. Espero que les guste, yo me divertí mucho haciéndola y bueno, que no se diga más, empecemos la entrevista.
All right. Thanks for the time.
No, thank you. Now, as I see, you are a record breaker all the time. Since you started your career, I think that's incredible. I mean, when you were doing stuff for Marvel, you like your Spider-Man just sold millions, then you did Spawn again, sold millions, and now you did the cover of your Spawn #1 in an NFT, and again, it sold, just broke records again. How does it feel to be able to just have this career, this amazing career where you're constantly just one-upping yourself? Does it get to be just so, I don't know, just amazing that you can't believe it?
Carl, here's the thing that we all know intellectually. I don't control the actions of any other human beings on the planet, right?
Mhm.
So I sort of humorously say, "Name's Todd, only rhymes with God." I don't get to force anybody to do anything. So I think any of us who have any success in any industry, whether that be entertainment or not, are thankful that a big swath of human beings will spend their hard-earned money to support our efforts. So, in all honesty, Carlos, at times I'm as surprised by it as anybody else because I just think I'm a schmuck anyway. So I'm like, and I'm so bored. I'm bored of me. Like
Really?
I'm over Todd a long time ago. So, but I've got a good group of people. Good people help sort of support some of the efforts that we do, and sometimes at the beginning of my career, it was a lot harder because you were starting from zero and trying to build everything, right?
Mhm.
But now, as I enter my fourth decade in comic books, or finish my fourth decade, I guess. You have momentum and you have name recognition and you have characters you've done. So there's a lot of other things that now come with you
Mhm.
that you get to use as part of the process to help get you to some of the finish lines, right? So I, it's still difficult because you got to, just like being in any other industry, trying to still be relevant is, I think, the word. 20, 30, sometimes 40 years into your career, I've learned is kind of the steep road. Not
Mhm.
just doing it. Getting in an industry is hard. Getting noticed is really hard. Having some impact is really hard. And then being able to do that for a long time again is another sort of steep hill. And then being relevant, which is why when I look at people like the Rolling Stones and Ozzy Osbourne or Kiss or whoever, anybody that like picked a profession and are there 30, 40, 50 years later, I just and you still care about them. I know how hard that is. And so I applaud any of it. So I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I've been able to navigate those treacherous sort of roadways.
Yeah, I mean, I live here in Mexico and people still talk about the stuff that you've done. Spawn has huge fandom here, you know, and everybody just keeps talking about everything you did. And so you have a longevity that very few artists have. And the thing is, you controlled your stuff. You weren't just, being a part of the system. You guys made your own rules, and you
Yeah,
want.
so you touch on two, I think, kind of big pieces there. One, having control. So I own, when we left Marvel,
Mhm.
a handful of us, and we began Image Comics. Right, everybody knows Marvel and DC mostly because of the movies.
Exactly.
But if you were to ask the next logical question, well, I know the two biggest. Who's number three?
Mhm.
That's us. That's Image Comic Books, and has been for over 30 years. So we sort of set off and created our own destiny to some extent. But the word you use that I think is undervalued at times is the longevity part,
Mhm.
right? So Spawn came out in 1992 when Image Comic Books was just beginning. And so, fast forward now, here we are at 2024, which means that anybody who's 32 years or younger has never lived on a planet that the word Spawn didn't exist. Doesn't mean you know it, doesn't mean you consume it, doesn't mean you have any idea that it's there, but you are living on a planet where that word is there someplace,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
And time has a value. It's the word is attrition, and attrition means that you just get to keep. People hear this word and they hear this word and they hear like my mom knew who the Incredible Hulk was, right? Why? She never bought a Marvel comic book, let alone an Incredible Hulk comic book. How did she know who Spidey was or the Hulk? Through attrition. She had just heard that word. She'd maybe been walking up and down the aisles, and there were like pillowcases and toys and hats and puzzles, maybe. And then every now and then, maybe there was a TV show or something like that. Okay, fine. But she never did anything to consume it. And yet, if you said, Mom, do you know who the Incredible Hulk was? She would have said, Yeah, of course. Right? Like me, I know who the Kardashians are, and I consume nothing in their world, but I actually know they exist, and I probably actually have more knowledge about them than I should, given that I've read nothing about them in my entire life. I just hear people, I see headlines, I see stuff, and it just comes. So there's a value in that. And I've been able to put Spawn out now for 32 years nonstop, setting the records, but just pounding it, because here's where the value is. Take something like the movie that, again, hopefully this summer we'll make the big announcement that we found the studio. Who
Oh.
should be coming to that movie for sure? I'm hoping, at least out of curiosity, will be all the people who have passed through Spawn for the last 30 years. And they might have passed through Spawn through the comic books, through the HBO animated series,
Mhm.
through the toys, and sometimes through the video games. Maybe they even like the first movie. Who knows? But there's all these places that people have been able to pass through that word, and they don't all have to be doing it right now. They just have to have a knowledge that they did pass through that. So if they see a trailer or announcement for, let's say, a new Spawn movie, they may go, "Oh man, I used to collect that comic book 20 years ago. I'm gonna take a look at it." Right? And so you have this massive amount of people over 30 years that you can draw from, that is probably bigger than we all sort of think of in any brand uh, that you have, and especially if you can get it outside of the bubble of comic books.
Well, that's the thing, I remember a while ago, I think it was 2015 or 2014, somewhere along that line, that you announced that you were planning to do a new Spawn movie, and just everybody was talking about it. Everybody went crazy. So there's still a desire to see more of your character, a character that you came up with, just totally for yourself. And I think that's so cool that you were not just limited to the things that you did, like for Marvel or DC, because like I myself, I love Marvel, I love DC, and I would be just happy just working for them if that ever came. But you said, okay, I had this, I did the some of the best characters in both companies. Now it's my turn. I want to show everybody my dreams. I want to show everybody my creation. And I think that's incredible because you were taking a huge risk way back then because it just
I
wasn't.
actually, I don't, for me, it wasn't a risk.
Mhm,
I knew my worth back then. I knew where I was status wise when I was doing Amazing Spider-Man. Actually, I was doing the Spider-Man book. I was writing, penciling, inking.
mhm.
So I knew I was sort of in the sort of top tier.
Yes.
I didn't think leaving was that sort of big of a risk.
Mhm,
I knew we would sell at least a portion of what we were doing at Marvel, but we would get 100% of it, right? So it should work out. What we didn't know was that we were going to sell more than we were selling at Marvel,
mhm.
and we got 100% of it. Where before we were selling down here and getting 4% of it. So all of a sudden, like a big explosion came, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is going to help us create momentum to be able to show people that you can create your own ideas, and then help us go out and recruit others to say, hey, you can do what Jim Lee just did. You can do what Rob Liefeld did. You can do what Todd just did. Years later, you can do what Robert Kirkman did with The Walking Dead, right?
Right.
You can do what Brian K. Vaughan did with the Saga, right? And just keep sort of bringing in the new examples so that we could continue to bring people into the fold and do it. The one thing that hasn't been done as much as I would like to see is that I wish over the 30 plus years that Images existed that we had more books that had hit issue number 50 or higher,
Oh,
right? Because minus the original creators or the partners books, you can literally count those titles kind of on one hand. Um, and I wish there was like 10 times that, because people would see that if you create your own stuff and you do it for a while, 50 issues is a nice number, that you usually get attention outside of comic books, not just comic books. It's a good life in comic book, but you can get outside of comic books. And then if you get outside comic book, then you also have your 50 issues to exploit in trade paperbacks and in hardcovers, in compendiums, whatever. You can keep reprinting your books over and over and over. So when Walking Dead became the phenomenon that it did, Robert Kirkman had, at the beginning 120 issues, and by the time everything was said and done, had 190 issues that he could repackage, rebundle, right,
mhm.
reprint, without having to create more of it, because he was introducing those books for the first time to new people who were being exposed by a TV show or a movie or a video game, whatever. However, you get in the door to the house of whatever brand that you are. I don't. I've never been particular. I don't care if you like my product because of the toys and you don't know about others. I mean, I've had people sort of oddly know me because I've directed some music video,
Oh
and they're
yeah,
like,
really
"What?
good.
I didn't know you did. I didn't know you did toys, right?" So again, I don't care. The more the merrier. Here we go. Here we go. So that's sort of been
Mhm.
the sort of the formation of everything that I do and continue to do, which is again one of the reasons I a few years back got into the digital space, to just sort of go, well, there's people hanging out there, right? That's another crowd of people, right? Eyeballs are eyeballs are eyeballs. I don't have to personally like or enjoy or do or have knowledge about it. I just have to be smart enough to know there's a bunch of people in certain corners, and can I get my brand in those corners, because that's where they're hanging out.
Yeah, because I always feel like, especially now that we're talking about the digital space and NFTs and stuff like that, a lot of people have different opinions. But I always say, when new technology comes along, people are always going to say, "Oh, that's never going to last. That's not going to work." And then you look around like 10 years later and still going. So I think people just always naysay the new stuff. So it's
Well, I think that we've seen historically, and mankind has written a pretty good documentary of how we react. That change, we seem to fear change a lot,
yes.
which is odd given that I've said there's only two certainties in life: death and change. Those are the only 100%ers. Everything else is negotiable. But it's weird that change is the one that we hold on to, because the unknown, which is tomorrow, sort of scares people, right? And then there's a group of people who just, the unknown of tomorrow is actually the exhilarating piece of the equation. That it's like, so we don't know that we can't fly to the moon, so let's try it. Like, I mean, again, even if it's delusional in your idea, the excitement of trying to attempt it is sort of the journey for those of us that are wired for high risk, to just go throw caution to the wind. Let's go. Let's just do it. What's the worst that happens? We fail. We go back to what we were doing yesterday. We can always go back to what we were doing yesterday. The question is, if we don't try, if I don't help start a company like Image Comic Books, then there is no Spawn, right? And then all the things that have happened because of that since 1992, I would never have known. Good or bad, I would have never have known. So I don't know. The only way to figure out whether you've got an idea that is going to last or not, or you've got something that people care about for any period of time or not, is you have to actually get it out to the marketplace. Like, you got to put it out. But there are a lot of impediments to get there. One is money. Money stops people. Sometimes people who have money don't have an idea, so they got money, they don't have any idea, so that stops them. And then probably I would say the biggest stopper is our own personality, of that we all were built and wired differently. And again, I've got 3 kids, and I see it in my own children. We're not all fearless. We're not, some people are cautious. That's okay. Some people are sort of kind, and some people don't give a shit about the opinions of others. That's me. I don't know that that's a very kind attribute that I have, but I need it to survive in the way that I sort of go up against some industrial giants. I need to be able to just take opinions about me and literally ignore them. Whether it's from a fan base, from my competitors, from people saying, Todd, what are you doing? That's crazy. It doesn't matter. I have to get my opic and just do what I want to do. On a human level, it goes something like this. And this may be a silly example. I started dating my wife when she was 13, right? Her dad was appalled, didn't like me. Her brother didn't like me. My mom was neutral. My dad didn't think it was right. My brothers, our friends, everybody else, like, Todd, like, what are you doing? Stop. Don't do it. Don't come here. Her dad kicked me out of the house many times or whatever. And I just kept coming back every day. Like, he would kick me out of the house, and I'd come back the next day. Hey, is Wanda here? And he'd be like, what? I kicked you out of the house, son. I'm like, yeah, that was yesterday though, wasn't it? Like, today's a new day. And like, I mean, if you're going to kick me out today, then okay, but I'm going to be back tomorrow. And at some point he grew to admire the stubbornness. On his deathbed, literally, he was dying of brain cancer. Good man. He was like apologizing to me. Todd, I just want to apologize to you. I'm like, what? For what? Wow, I treated you so bad for about 4 or 5 years, right? I shouldn't have done that to you. Don't worry about it. I didn't give it a second thought. I didn't even give a shit what you thought. In all honesty, I didn't give a shit. I didn't give a shit what you thought. I didn't care what your son thought. I didn't care what my dad or my brother or my friend thought. There's only one human being I thought about. The girl I was dating. If she said, don't come back, I wasn't coming back. The rest of you, I wasn't dating you. I wasn't dating you. So you were literally white noise to me. I gave you no power in the equation. I
Mhm.
want to date that girl. And if that girl wants to date me, I'm coming back. If she doesn't, I quit, regardless of whether you want me to be here at any point in time. So the personality that I have is I find a focus, I put my head down, and I block out everything else. I get unemotional to all the rest of it.
Mhm.
Uh, and again, Carlos, in all honesty, I don't really kind of wish my personality even on my own children, because you got to be a bit of a cold fish at times to
Yes.
just go, I don't care. You're another human being. I don't care what your opinion is. Go live your own life. Go do your own thing, right? I like it's weird to me. It's weird to me. And what I won't do is I won't give any power to anybody who doesn't have like value to me at that point. So I don't know. Have I been the first one on a dance floor, Carlos? Many times. Many times. Do I give a shit about what anybody else in that bar is thinking of me at that time? I do not. You know why? Because that wasn't the goal. The goal wasn't to see if the people in the room will like me. You know what the goal was? To dance with my wife.
Got it.
You want to go out dancing? Yeah, let's go dancing. 9 o'clock, they're playing music. Nobody's dancing. I don't give a shit if they don't want to dance. Honey, let's go. She's a little more shy than me, but I go, come on, let's go. And we get up there and we dance. Now, if everybody in the room thinks we're great dancers, I don't care. And if they think we're bad dancers, I don't care, because that has nothing to do with it. Going and dancing with my wife was the goal, and I'm accomplishing the goal. Everything else I block out. But that's a personality, Carlos. I have a personality that was like that and has been like that since I came out of the womb.
Mhm.
Lots of people can't do that. They can't shut out the opinions of others. I've been I've been able to do it for a long time. So
Well, I think that was great for your career because I remember way back when you were doing, Batman and you did the huge cape, or you did Spider-Man with the huge eyes and the spaghetti webbing. A lot of people, they say, "Oh no, that's not Spider-Man. Oh, that's not Batman." You said, "That's what I'm going to do," and you keep
no,
drawing.
it's going back to it. So it was what startled them was it was different.
Yes.
And different means that it's like, oh, that's not yesterday again, right? I like again, I'm all about tomorrow. I'm like that's the excitement. But I've said before too. When I speak to young people, for me, I try not to say too much. I just usually talk about my life, and everybody else, you do what you want to do. But for me, one of the great enemies I've run into is status quo. And status quo is yesterday. This is how we do it. This
Mhm.
is how we've always done it. This is how things get done here. And that's always backwards thinking to me. And I'm not saying you ignore it. You ignore the past. You still take from the past, you learn from the past, you take what's good, but then you continue to evolve it, right? But when you try to evolve it, which is all I was doing with Spider-Man, I just made his eyes bigger. He had eyes. I just made him bigger. No big deal, really, right? Just involving him. That like people like all this heck. His eyes aren't supposed to be that big. Like, well, that's only because nobody made them that big, right? So why don't we do it? Matter of fact, somebody could have made them twice as small or twice as big as I made them. It's just a different take on the goal. The goal, though, isn't trying to necessarily get people to like what you're doing, although that's part of it. The goal at the end of the day was for me to sell comic books for Marvel. That was what they hired me to do. And so my conversations with them was, do you care how I get there?
Mhm.
Like, if I make big eyes and it doubles sales, do you care? You shouldn't, because your business is to sell. You're in the commerce business. You're a capitalist. You're a public company. You're in the money making business. If I can double sales, do you really care how I got there? Right? You shouldn't, but they did. They wanted to make money and and be the conductor. And I wasn't built for that. So
No, I see that's been the whole thing in your career because I also remember back when McFarlane toys came out. And just I remember toys when I was little. I mean, all the faces looked the same, all the molding was just lame and very few points of articulation. And when the Spawn toys came out, they had more mobility, they had more points of articulation, the face sculpts were a lot better, and you just kept growing and growing and growing and just taking the whole industry with you. And just a lot of toy companies just went up a bunch of notches just to compete with you because what you were doing was just art.
yeah,
Just that they could hold
but that was the goal. The goal was when I started, if I can pull this off and I can show that I'm successful, other people will replicate it. That was the goal. And the more that people replicate it, the better the toys are going to get as a whole. Right? Because why? Because I was a collector and I wasn't really collecting a lot of toys because I thought they were junky. So it was like, okay, so I don't really care if some competitor makes a cool looking toy that excites me. I'll buy that one too. Right? So as a geek, I just wanted toys better. And it's like if I've got to be one of the people who's basically shown how the blueprint is done,
Mhm.
fine. But that's the piece where then you have to have success because if you're successful, then people will try and replicate it, right? So when we started at Image Comic Books, after we broke away from Marvel, we had to succeed because we were never going to get any other creative people to come and make the jump
Mhm.
if 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 they felt it wasn't steady landing when they made the jump where we were. So success, Carlo, is something that I think people also misinterpret. That I don't chase success because I want it. I mean, and I've got a healthy ego, so make no doubt about that. But I don't chase the success the same way I did in my early years. I chase it because you have to have it to be able to continue to do your goal, which for me is art till the day I die. And if, especially if you're in rooms and you're asking other people for help and or their money and or their infrastructure, right? So you can't walk into a room and say, hey, I want to do something big. I got this big grand idea. And oh, by the way, the last three things I did failed miserably. You're not going to get the deal done. You're not going to. So that's why I need to curate success so that they'll keep coming back and the opportunities to do art will always be there. And even if all those opportunities were to vanish, I still have my stuff that I own 100% over here. I get to do it anyways, right? So I've sort of got my cake and eat it too. I get to deal with corporate America and play with some of their brands and have a good time with that. And I get to basically always have the backfill of I've got my own stuff that I own 100% and I don't have to ask anybody's opinion or approval.
And do you miss doing a comic book monthly, or do you prefer being like the mastermind of just your entire empire and saying, okay, now I'm going to concentrate on the new toys that I'm going to come out, or the new Spawn miniseries or series that are going to come out? Because I just got a notice that a new Violator miniseries is coming out and stuff like that. So I mean, that takes up a lot of your time. I remember like George Lucas, at first, he was a director and a writer, and then he just was the producer because he did not have time for anything else for the day to day of
Yeah.
directing. Do you miss doing the day to day of art?
Yes,
Drawing.
every day, every day. So, but I'm also realistic to go, well, it depends on what you're trying to strive for, Todd, right? Um, if you want to expand your brand, either personally and or with your creative ideas, then it's kind of tough to do it on your own.
Mhm.
Um, and so you're going to need help with other creative people, with other business people. And so then you just slowly start adding people in your circle to your business. And then if you have success, you have a tendency to keep growing, and growing. Um, but I, but do I have pain every day to just wish I had nothing but 10 hours uninterrupted to do art? Of course. I mean, because everything that we're talking about all stems from the moment where I broke into comic books and I went into a room and I hunched over my board myself with nobody else in that room for 10 hours a day, and it just came,
Mhm.
right? All my stuff at Marvel, the idea of Spawn, it all was just me solo. But to sort of expand on it to the level we have was an impossible task with one person. So now when I'm in certain meetings that are not overly creative,
Mhm.
am I aware that I'm in a non-creative meeting? Of course, right? I just like come on, man. But this is where then can I find smart people to basically pick up some of the weaknesses that I have so that I can at least either oversee creative people, create the seeds of stuff that those creative people will help do, or basically in some cases just do it myself, right? I mean, I still write three, I think I'm writing four titles right now on the comic book end. So I still get down into the granular piece, but yes, I miss it. I think when I get old, I've said before, when I get old, I'm just gonna go full circle. I'm just gonna jet all this, sort of corporate stuff, and then just go back to just go. I just want to draw 10 hours a day, and that's who I am.
I see now that we have like limited time. It says that we only have like 9 minutes. Do you have anything new that's coming out? Like any news, like in the a new animated series, a new movie? Do you have anything that you can give us, or it's all top secret and you can reveal anything?
I've been doing toys now for 30 years, right? Man, for 25 of those first 30 years, I felt like when I was going to Toy Fair, I was like the only guy that didn't have a piece of DC or Marvel or Star Wars or these big giant brands. Like everybody had them, like a piece of it. Somehow, some way, keychains, hats, t-shirts, whatever. And I was like, oh man, it'd be cool to just do like one figure at least of every brand that I can't get my hands on, right? One GI Joe, one Transformer, one Ben 10, one I don't care, just let me try one. Um, but a few years back, we were able to secure the DC Multiverse line,
Oh, yes.
and that came out just as
I
the
have mine
pandemic.
here.
Yeah, there you go. Just as the pandemic was hitting, and
Yeah.
we were able to hit the ground running and go, and have had like giant success with that. So grateful to them doing it. But we were doing toys for Avatar, the movie, James Cameron's movie, and I was always bugging them, because Avatar come up with Fox. Fox is owned by Disney. Disney owns Marvel, right? So that's that big giant umbrella. And it's like, man, wouldn't it be cool if Todd McFarlane, me, was able to make toys, because I make toys of artwork that was based on Todd's stuff. Like what are you talking about? Todd making Todd stuff, right? I mean, I'm being completely biased and a little bit egotistical here, but it sort of started as a joke, and then eventually the joke sort of started getting some traction. And so we just announced that we got a license to do pose figures from Marvel, and not only do I get to do my own artwork, so
Yes.
Todd, I literally get to take my 2D and turn it into 3D, but I also get to then handpick other like artists, creative characters, covers, history. Like I have access to all the comic book, and just get to have fun and do like dioramas and poses on them and stuff. So gonna do
Cool.
in that first wave some things based on my artwork. And but I've got a Jim Lee Wolverine based on his #1 Uncanny X-Men cover. Got a Rob Liefeld Deadpool based on the first appearance of
Yeah,
Deadpool. Got John Romita Jr. Iron Man based on like the beginning when he took over, and to
yeah, yeah.
me when Iron Man got put on the map. Doing a big 10-inch version of Captain America based on that cover right
That
there.
is so beautiful.
Doing a big version of that
Oh,
guy right there.
that is amazing.
And there's plenty of others. We got, again, given that I co-created Venom, we'll get some
Yeah.
Venom in there. There's no lack of Spider-Man poses. We'll be able to do all 50 McFarlane poses eventually, hopefully, as well as doing all these cool covers and artists of people that I've admired myself through all the years. So I finally get to scratch my toy itch of doing Marvel stuff for the very first time. And as part of it, I get to do my own stuff that I did at Marvel, which is kind of cool, either cool and fun or creepy and stalker-ish or egotistical. It depends on how you do it, but that's it. And so hopefully it succeeds and we'll be able to do it for quite some time.
Thank you so very much for your time. I have to go because Zoom is about to kick me out. Thank you so very much. And, much success with everything you do. Thank you.
All right. Be good.
It was a pleasure. Bye-bye.